Shalom. I'm Nama Ru. This is Rabbi David Ru, and we're talking about the Shmita year. I know that I have such a steep learning curve, especially because I like to grow food in my garden, and I think I can start weeding some parts of the garden where I need to protect food that we're going to eat during the Shmita year. Right? What if I did something wrong? What if I cleared an area improperly or something? Does that change
Or what
the
if you
status?
planted something?
Right. Does that change the status of the food, as far as what's prohibited?
This is a very interesting discussion. It seems very clear in the Mishnah. There's a Mishnah in Trumos that discusses many things. We're only looking at the end of the Mishnah. If you accidentally planted a tree on Shabbos, you're allowed to, the tree is kept in its place. Mazid, if you knew it was Shabbos and you planted the tree anyway, Yakor, you have to uproot it. Uveshvis, and if you did this on the Shmita year, Bein Shogeg, Bein Mazid, Yakor, whether it's accidental or intentionally, you have to uproot the tree. The Rambam in the Perushut in the Mishnah says, Umashi chanu la'achmir b'shvis yoser mi b'Shabbos. What forced us to be more strict on Shmita rather than Shabbos? Lefia klal she'etzleinu, because we have a general principle that we know. Lo nechshadu Yisrael al Shabbos. Traditionally, Jews have never been suspected of violating Shabbos. V'nechshadu al shvis. But we have a long tradition, going way back into the Mishnayos, that people cheated on the Shmita year. So therefore, we were more machmir on Shmita than we were on Shabbos. So from this Rambam, it seems...
They ruined it for all of us.
It seems that this is rabbinic legislation. However, having said that, we previously looked at Azeka, which Rashi explained, which we'll look at in a minute. A non-Jew is selling something, and he says this is of... it's orla, it's this, it's that. There's all sorts of different things that are prohibited to us, including azeka, which isn't clear what that is, that we don't have to believe him. He's doing this to make it sound like the fruit is better than it in fact is. And he's just telling the normal lies that people do when they're selling things. So Rashi said there, Mi pardes me'uzak v'gader lo saviv. What this means is there's a fence around it. Fushan the Shvis, and this is during the Shmita year. And Rashi said it's a problem because it's before Biur, it shouldn't matter, it should be permitted. If it's after Biur, it shouldn't matter either way, it should be prohibited. So what's that talking about? That was the way Rashi explained Azeka. However, later on in the Ramban, he says, V'yesh lefares Azeka milashin matza'u yoshev va'ozek tachas hazesim. That it means that he is standing there working under the olive trees. So it's not guarded, the Ramban says, but it is worked. Shapirusho chofer or oselo kamin geder lamalos afar ve'ivrue lanahu va'aser. What does that mean? He's digging a ditch so that he can put a fence there to fill it with fertilizer or water to water the tree improperly. And this is to make the tree better, and that's prohibited. Uperos atzman asurim, and the fruit from this tree are then prohibited. Demachmas avodas shvis ba'u, because they come because of the work on the Shmita year. The kaimelan, and we have learned in the Mishnah, hanateh b'shvis yakor, that if you plant a tree during the Shmita year, it must be uprooted. V'sadeh shnitaiva lo tizra'a lemotzi shvis. And a field that you fertilized on the Shmita year, I'm not even allowed to plant it motzi Shmita.
Because you will benefit from the work done on the Shmita.
You're right, the improvement of the field on the Shmita year. You
can't work it even the year after the Shmita.
So, fine. Now, the Rambam in Hilchos Shmita v'Yotvel writes as follows. Avar v'zaro b'shvis. I transgressed and I planted my field during the Shmita year. V'yatze l'shminis, and it went into the 8th year. Im zaro l'zera, bein zaro, bein yarko aser. If I did it for the seed, both the seed and the fruit, the vegetables that grow are prohibited. B'motzi shvis, even in the 8th year, kshar svichim, like anything else that's grown during the Shmita year in a prohibited way. V'im zaro l'yerek, and if I planted it to grow vegetables, hoyel v'nilka at b'shvis, bein yarko, bein zaro mutter, because it could be harvested during the Shmita year, and I would have had the benefit during the Shmita year, then it's permitted. Zaro l'zera u'liyerek, if I planted it both to collect the seed from it and for the vegetables coming in, zaro aser mishum svichim v'yarko mutter, then the seed is prohibited because of svichim, and if the vegetables are permitted. Now,
this reminds me of like you can prepare certain ways food that you're going to eat on the same day during Shabbat.
You can cook on Yom Tov for Yom Tov is a better example.
For a holiday.
Because the Raavad objects strenuously to this. Avar v'zara b'shvis v'yatzel l'shminis. If you planted it in the 7th year and it goes into the 8th year, ad yarko mutar, until the vegetable is mutar. Amar Avraham said, Lo matzinu b'zoria b'shvis shum heter. We have not been able to find any way of permitting anything that is planted in the Shmita year. Shari amru hanotea v'hamavrich pachos mishloshim yom lifnei Rosh Hashanah aser l'kaiman b'shvis. We've learned that if you either plant a tree or you graft a tree less than 30 years before Rosh Hashanah, it's prohibited to keep it. It must be destroyed. And if you plant intentionally on the Shmita year, you have to dig it up. And we don't care about the flowering or anything else. Anything that took root in the Shmita year must be uprooted. No, the only time when the flowering is important is with fruit trees when the tree is yashan, when it's old. The only time we are ever concerned about when a fruit or vegetable is finished is with svichim, things that grow by themselves. Shiyatsu me'aleihim, that they came up on themselves. V'mishkachas la b'nizru lo mishkachas la ela kishazaru akum. And when we're talking about something that was planted in the Gemara, in the Yerushalmi primarily, we're only talking about something that was planted by a non-Jew. Inamim b'komo she'eshvis midivrehim. Or a place where the Shmita is only rabbinic in nature, like Syria on the other side of the Jordan River, Jordan of today. Defshar Delo Amrin and Behu Yakor. And in those places, we didn't say to uproot it. But everything else has to be uprooted.
If it's in the Holy Land and planted by a Jew.
Right. So the Chazon Ish, at the end of a very, very long paragraph, writes as follows. Umihu nira de netaiva kula tefei. That seems that fertilizing there's a great leniency. Dim asibi Yerushalmi, as we learned in the Yerushalmi Perak Beis Halacha Dalet, dim lo akar haperos mutar. That if for some reason you didn't uproot it after you fertilized it, the fruit is permitted. De'afilu zara haperos, even if I planted them. Avalo benotea v'zera b'shvis. But this doesn't apply to putting the seedling in the ground or seeding a field. Vat masik b'Yerushalmi sham, that what we learned in the Yerushalmi there, the perosaha mutarim, that when does it say the fruit is mutter? Davka benata kodem shvis. This is only if you planted it before Shmita. Vasu peros, and then it made fruit on the Shmita year. I mean, I planted it in a prohibited way, but I still planted it before Shmita, and I haven't gotten around to uprooting it until there's already fruit on it. Then that fruit would be permitted, the Chazon Ish says. Or afilu b'shvis. Vizu dasarai, but this is the opinion of the Raavad that we just read a minute ago. Aval dasa Rambam sham, the opinion of the Rambam is to af ba'avar v'zara perus mutarim k'mo medataiva. But the opinion of the Rambam is that even the things that you planted on Shmita year, after the fact, they're permitted. That's not exactly how I read it, but that's how the Chazon Ish is understanding it. Mikol makom yesh pera leperos din peros hashumar. This is considered like any other fruit that was guarded. You can't buy the fruit from him. If he gives them to you, you could eat them. Or if you pick them yourself, you could eat them, but you can't buy it because then you're rewarding the person that's violated the halacha. In Madenia Eretz, in the notes of Rosh Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, note 7, he writes, "Lafi mashano hagim b'chachras hachronim lahakel b'zman hazeh." What is it that we are in general lenient in our times with these things? Biser mishumar v'nevad, and things that were locked up or worked during the Shmita. V'gama Chaznish kasev ken b'siman yud osvav, and the Chaznish wrote that in just what we quoted right now. B'di eved ein haperos nesarim u'matarim b'achlila lacherim. After the fact, if the person has already done this, other people may eat the fruit. That person himself, by the way, the Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach says, is claiming that Chaznish would also agree, is never allowed to eat it. So if you make a mistake in your garden, you can't eat that fruit. You give it to someone else.
You can't benefit
but
from
you
it.
personally can never benefit from it.
But it's public, it's ownerless, and they can benefit.
And there is a general principle. Why does Reb Shlomo Zalman say this? I think because we have a general principle that I cannot prohibit someone else's object. For instance, if I own a cow and I worship the cow as an idol, like the Jews leaving Egypt worship the golden calf, I've prohibited the calf and the cow, whatever, and there's nothing that can be done with it. It has to be thrown into the Dead Sea. However, let's say my neighbor has a cow, and I bow down and worship it. I can't prohibit his cow. I can only prohibit my objects, not someone else's object. Since no one owns the fruit of the Shmita year, therefore, the person can prohibit it on themselves, but they can't prohibit it on anyone else. However, if you hold like the Beis Yosef that someone is actually required to declare their property ownerless, right? Then they're prohibiting their own property, and it should be prohibited. So those people that eat peros, non-Jewish produce on the Shmita year only, and don't treat it as if it has any sanctity of Shmita, it would seem to me if someone worked their field, then they would have to say it's prohibited and they can't eat it. Whereas people that hold like the Mabit, that does have some kedusha to it because anything grows in the land is kadosh, and it's afkarta de malka, and God declared it ownerless. Therefore, since a person cannot prohibit someone else's things, therefore, according to those people, these things would be lenient.
I have a question. So, like, for example, certain types of food sprout up voluntarily during the Shemitah year, and you're not supposed to eat the stuff that comes up on its own, right? And if your property is ownerless, it's God's, especially during the Shmita year. So what if your neighbors or don't know like that that particular type of plant sprouted up since the new year started and it's forbidden? Like, are you supposed to stop them? Can they benefit from it?
There is a halacha by Orla, for instance, the fruit of the first 3 years of a tree. If it's standing in a place where people could halachically take from that tree, I'm supposed to put a sign on it that says this tree is Orla, so people know it would be prohibited. So here too, I think you should be obligated to inform people that this is sfichin and cannot be eaten this year.
Okay, signage. Thank you.